How do you deal with the contradictions of life? On one hand, we all want meaning, happiness, and joy. On the other hand, we often feel like we want to reject life when it brings us pain, emptiness, and sadness. This struggle of wanting and rejecting life is at the heart of Cioran's thoughts. In this video, we'll talk about 3 important ideas Cioran used to deal with his complicated feelings about life. Ideas that might help us understand our own lives better too. Before we start, keep in mind, this video will make you think deeply, face some uncomfortable truths, and find strength in life's contradictions. If you find this content helpful, please like the video. It doesn't cost anything, but it helps share these ideas with more people. Now let's dive into the struggle that Cioran, and maybe all of us, face. Cioran believed that life itself is absurd, a contradiction full of hopes and disappointments. He struggled with wanting to find meaning, but also realizing that any meaning we find is temporary and doesn't last. This paradox is at the core of his thoughts. We all want something, happiness, success, love. But what if wanting things is what makes us unhappy? Cioran thought that our expectations and constant search for fulfillment make us miserable. Life is a cycle of wanting, getting, and then being disappointed. Think about it. How many times have you wanted something really badly, only to feel empty or let down after you got it? People often chase after things, thinking they will bring happiness, but it never lasts. People are naturally selfish, driven by their own needs, even if it hurts others. They will use you to reach their goals without caring about how it affects you. People start to take advantage of you, Cioran might say, because they only care about their own happiness. Cioran encourages us to face the absurdity of life and see it for what it is. He wants us to realize that the things we desire are often pointless and short-lived, but it's in our nature to want them anyway. The struggle is knowing that what we want might not make us happy, but still wanting it. The more we understand how absurd our situation is, the more we can look at life with detachment and maybe even laugh at it. Life is often like a big illusion where we are all trying hard to find meaning, approval, and validation. But Cioran wants us to take off that mask and see life for what it truly is, just a bunch of fleeting moments filled with both beauty and pain. Instead of running away from the emptiness, Cioran wants us to face it, to sit with it, and understand that it's a natural part of being human. When we accept that life is absurd, we can find a strange kind of freedom. When we let go of the need for everything to make sense or to have a higher purpose, we allow ourselves to really live in the present. We stop caring so much about what others think or what society expects, and we become more in tune with our true selves. This is what Cioran wants us to understand. By accepting the absurd, we free ourselves from false hopes and impossible ideals. The absurdity of life is something that we all face, whether we recognize it or not. It shows up when we feel like nothing we do matters, when we feel overwhelmed by the chaos of the world, or when we realize that the things we thought would make us happy don't actually bring us the joy we expected. Cioran tells us that instead of being afraid of this feeling, we should embrace it. Life doesn't always make sense, and that's okay. By accepting the absurdity, we can free ourselves from the constant pressure to have all the answers or to make everything perfect. We can start to find comfort in the fact that everyone else is just as lost as we are. It's important to remember that the absurdity of life is not something to be feared, but something to be accepted. We often make ourselves miserable by trying to control everything and make life fit into a perfect box. But life is messy, unpredictable, and full of surprises, both good and bad. By accepting this, we can learn to let go of the unrealistic expectations we put on ourselves and others. We can find freedom in the chaos and start to live more authentically. Cioran also reminds us that it's okay to laugh at the absurdity of it all. Life can be strange, unexpected, and downright confusing at times, but that doesn't mean we have to take it so seriously. Sometimes, the best thing we can do is take a step back and find humor in the situation. Laughing at the absurdity of life allows us to keep our perspective and not get too caught up in the things that don't really matter in the long run. Cioran's struggle wasn't just about wanting life, it was also about wanting to reject it. This paradox, Wanting to live, but also rejecting the idea that life is always worth it, is very human. We often feel torn between wanting to enjoy life and wanting to step away from its pain and confusion. Have you ever felt like you were just done with everything? The weight of expectations, the constant letdowns, the emptiness, it can all feel like too much sometimes. Cioran didn't try to hide these feelings. He saw them as a natural part of life. He said that sometimes rejecting life, saying no to the noise, the chaos, the endless search for something we can't even define, is the most honest thing we can do. Before I go on, give yourself credit for making it this far in the video. You've shown real strength, so let's keep going until the end. But why is rejecting life beautiful? For Cioran, rejecting life isn't about giving up or despair. It's about finding freedom. When we realize that we don't always have to prove ourselves, achieve things, or be someone important in the eyes of society, we become free. Rejecting the rules and expectations that others put on us lets us live more honestly. Cioran teaches us that there's beauty in refusing to conform, in saying no to the false promises that life and other people make. People can be awful. They lie, cheat, and manipulate to get what they want. They make promises they never intend to keep, all for their own benefit. They hide their true intentions behind fake kindness and empty words. By rejecting the illusion that life is fair or that people are always kind, we get closer to the truth. We understand that real peace doesn't come from trying to change people, but from distancing ourselves from their games. Rejecting life doesn't mean we have to be alone. It means rejecting the shallow values that society often pushes on us, the need to always achieve, acquire, and be recognized. By rejecting these false values, we can find a deeper sense of purpose. We start to understand that true meaning isn't found in chasing after things or trying to impress others, but in simply accepting ourselves as we are, flaws and all. Cioran's philosophy encourages us to let go of the noise, to stop chasing things that don't really bring us happiness. By doing this, we make room for what truly matters: real connections, genuine experiences, and a better understanding of ourselves. Rejecting life isn't about giving up. It's about giving up on the false ideas that others have forced on us so that we can live more freely and honestly. There is something truly beautiful about saying no to the things that don't serve us. Society often tells us that we need to be constantly striving for more success, more possessions, more recognition, but Cioran reminds us that this endless pursuit is often what makes us unhappy. By rejecting these expectations, we give ourselves permission to live on our own terms. We stop trying to fit into a mold that was never meant for us, and we start to discover what truly brings us joy. Rejecting life doesn't mean that we stop caring or that we become indifferent to everything around us. Instead, it means that we stop letting others dictate what our lives should look like. It means that we take back control and decide for ourselves what matters and what doesn't. When we reject the false values that society tries to impose on us, we make space for the things that truly matter: love, connection, creativity, and authenticity. Cioran also teaches us that rejecting life can be a form of self-care. When we step away from the noise and chaos, we give ourselves the opportunity to rest, reflect, and recharge. We don't have to be constantly pushing ourselves to achieve more or to be someone we're not. By rejecting the pressure to always be on, we can find a deeper sense of peace and contentment. We can start to live in a way that feels true to who we are, rather than trying to live up to the expectations of others. The third key idea in Cioran's philosophy is acceptance, not just of life, but also of the desire to reject it. Cioran believed that true freedom lies in accepting both sides, wanting life and understanding that it can be meaningless at the same time. When you accept that people will often be selfish, that life will have disappointments, and that our efforts may not always matter, you can start to let go of the need to control everything. You can live in the chaos without letting it crush you. You can see the humor in it, how strange it is to want and reject, to hope and despair, all at the same time. Cioran teaches us that freedom isn't about escaping life or becoming indifferent to it. It's about accepting the contradictions. It's about understanding that even though our struggles might be pointless, we still choose to face them, because that's all we can do. Accepting that people will disappoint us, that our desires might bring us pain, and that life might not have a clear meaning, that's where true freedom begins. Acceptance isn't about giving up, it's about choosing to live fully, even with all the challenges and contradictions that life brings. By accepting both the good and the bad, the joy and the pain, we open ourselves up to a more real and rich experience of life. Cioran believed that true freedom comes from this kind of acceptance, from letting go of the need for life to be perfect, or for people to be anything other than what they are. Life is unpredictable, full of both happy and sad moments. By accepting this unpredictability, we can stop worrying so much about trying to control everything. We learn to go with the flow instead of always fighting against it. This acceptance helps us find peace, even in the middle of chaos, and lets us laugh at how absurd it all is, while still moving forward with purpose. Cioran's message is simple. The way to freedom is not to escape life's challenges, but to face them fully. By accepting both our desire for life and our urge to reject it, we can find true liberation. When we do this, we stop caring so much about what others think, stop feeling the need to achieve constantly, and start connecting more with our true selves. Acceptance is not about resigning yourself to a life of misery or giving up on your dreams. It's about understanding that life is full of contradictions, and that it's okay to feel both joy and sadness, hope and despair. By accepting both sides of life, we can find a deeper sense of peace and contentment. We can learn to appreciate the good moments without being afraid of the bad ones, and we can find strength in knowing that we can handle whatever comes our way. Cioran also reminds us that acceptance is a choice. We can choose to fight against the things we can't control, or we can choose to accept them and find peace in the process. When we accept that life is unpredictable and that people are flawed, we free ourselves from the constant struggle to make everything perfect. We can start to focus on the things that truly matter, our relationships, our passions, and our own inner growth. So what can we learn from Cioran's struggle? Accept the absurdity of life, find beauty in rejecting false expectations, and accept the paradox of wanting and rejecting life at the same time. This is how we navigate the complexity of being human, not by finding easy answers, but by facing the hard questions. If you've made it this far, leave a comment with the word liberation so I know you've watched until the end. And don't forget, your support helps spread these ideas. So like this video if you haven't already. Remember, it costs you nothing, but it makes a big difference. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in our next video. Stay curious, stay thoughtful, and stay strong.